Hello. So, I graduated yesterday. I've been looking forward to this graduation for years now. It's sort of been like the end of my goals, and now that I've done it, now what? Today I wanted specifically to talk about the books I've read through this year so far. I didn't read I read every single month because of my degree, but I didn't read for myself a lot of the time because of the amount of work and obviously readings I had to do for my modules and my dissertation. I have a list of everything. I read at least 20 books now, which I'm very, very proud of. Last year, I think I read like 14. But yeah, I've been pushing myself to read more, and yeah. Okay, so the first book of 2026 I read was Sunrise on the Reaping. I avoided all spoilers about this book throughout the year. It is extremely good. The title itself is really intriguing, and also I love the cover, by the way. I got the special, I think, gift edition. I thought I'll be crying by the end of this book, but I think so many things had happened, so many bad things had happened in this book. I just sort of was numb to it all. I felt extremely bad for Haymitch, who is obviously the main character and Katniss's mentor in the actual Hunger Games. I think it hit me even more because I knew the ending would be really upsetting and devastating. I just didn't know what to expect at the same time. Yeah. Obviously this book answered a lot of the questions we were left about Haymitch in the films and the books, and obviously the main reason as to why his character is the way he is. Haymitch had lost so many people, including his family, when he came back after winning the Hunger Games. There was no one there for him, which is insane and so upsetting. But yeah, he was basically just constantly trying to survive, and the capital was so unfair to him. They kept giving him hope only to take away almost immediately. I would describe it as mocking a child with like a piece of candy. Like it's that horrible. that's the nicest way, the most innocent way I could describe it. I think this book also shows specifically, it demonstrates how Snow was able to hold power by punishing the victors and obviously their loved ones. He reminded them who was actually in power whenever a victor would challenge him. I think in general this book is absolutely amazing, and I think everyone should read it, and I like the way it's written in a way that everyone can read it. This is the first book of the year that I read, and also just a really good book. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Julian Green, Paris, which is essentially a love letter to Paris. It's a very short book. I particularly like short books. I think it leaves a lot to be thought about after you read the book. Yeah, I think that's the main reason why I like short books. Anyways, this book particularly is very interestingly set out. It's one page is in French and then the other half is in English. Yeah, I don't really see many books like that unless they're specifically when you're learning how to speak a certain language. Like, as I'm flicking through this book, I've noticed I've underlined so many lines. I like underlining lines and occasionally annotating. I don't really like annotating with tabs. I think that's just a bit too much and I can't really focus on a book if I'm reading with a bunch of tabs. So I just underline them. It's like on every page. I think they just make me feel... I've underlined these phrases and sentences. I think it's because they made me feel certain ways, or I have opinions on these things. For example, this line here: Paris is a city that might well be spoken of in plural, for there are many Parises. And he talks about how Paris is viewed differently to certain people and how he's tempted to call it sacred. He also says how the soul of a big city is not to be grasped so easily, and you have to be bored in order to understand the city. Many people don't understand or don't like certain areas because they haven't fully explored the places. They've just gone there to do certain things, specific things, and they haven't really got lost. I think the perfect way to explore a city, especially a big city, for example Paris, London, places like this, you have to get lost. I also like how he talks about how Paris is basically the city of creatives, painters, poets, all these people. Very sweet, but poets carry in their hearts the tragic vision of their desires. They did not see that dark landscape. Our painters, they make shadows with bright colours. From end to end, they restore us to a happy Paris, the city of light. It's so beautifully written in my opinion, and I'm sure the translation is not exact, and obviously in French it'll be a lot more meaningful or different. From what I've read in English, it sounds wonderful. Julian Green basically takes us on a journey throughout Paris. I got this book in the travel section. I always go into the travel section. I think it's good to go into the travel section in a bookshop because you come across certain books like this. They won't always be like travel guides, but this is like a travel guide. It's very extremely nostalgic and obviously written from his memories, because he specifically talks about how it's difficult to write about Paris when you're in Paris. And I think that goes to almost everywhere. I find it much more easier to write about certain cities when I'm away from the city, romanticizing a certain place. That's essentially what he's doing. He tries to capture the essence of Paris, even though it exists, even though these memories exist in his mind. He's just looking back at it. Yeah, so I definitely recommend just getting lost and even just looking in the travel section. The next book I have is The Inseparables by Simone de Beauvoir. I started reading this book on the tube immediately after I bought it. I think I remember reading somewhere that this book will be good if you've had really close friendships, specifically female friendships, and I must agree with that. Friendships mean so much to me. I mean, all the friendships I've had, all my friends, they mean just so much to me, and I think this book kind of, I don't know, I sort of relate to it in a way. But yeah, I think friendships are very important. I think especially nowadays, loads of books mainly about romance and not enough about friendships, which I don't really read many books about romance, to be honest. I think I did as a teen, and now I don't know. I think there's just too much of it, and I think friendships just are so important, and I think there needs to be more literature on friendships, specifically female friendships. Yeah, there's just not enough. Anyways, this book is a semi-autobiography about Simone and her friend Zaza. But yeah, they've replaced the names, so it's fictional. It's brand new. Well, brand new. These two girls, they met at Catholic school. They were the best two students, and they were best friends. Unfortunately, they were from two different families. Simone's friend was from a very religious and strict family. They had a planned future for her, I guess, like a vision for what she would have to do. Unlike, obviously, Simone's parents. That made it a lot more difficult for their friendship, I guess. Especially with her friend. Her friend's mother didn't approve of Simone. She thought she was a bad influence on her friend, which I think is honestly really devastating. I would hate for my friend's mother to not like me. It's clear in this book that Simone is more dependent on the friendship rather than her friend, but at the same time they're both very loyal to each other. I think there's a helicopter going. Whilst reading this book, it's abundantly clear how much I related to this character specifically. Especially when I make new friends, I'm very shy, but at the same time I really want to get to know them. And yeah, I think there's this one line in this book where her friend's talking to her. She says, "Bernard was the only person in the world who loved me for myself, exactly as I was, and because I was myself." And then Simone's character replies with, "What about me?" It just demonstrates how much Simone depended on this friendship. She loved her friend so much, and the fact that her friend didn't view their friendship that way, it's sort of sad in a way. I really do recommend this book. I think it's really important to read more books about friendship, and it's also a very short book, as you can see, so you can read it in one sitting almost. I think I did. Kind of. It was recently discovered in the 50s. It was denied, I think, or something, and then it got found in 2021. Yeah. The final book that I'm going to talk about is How Do We Both by Ali Smith. I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to. I read it I think it was the last few months that I was finishing university. My friend, I think we were in 4 years, and she said it was a good book because I pointed it out. And yeah, I bought it because I trust her recommendations. I really, really enjoyed this book. The first half of my book was a modern tale about George and the mourning the loss of her mother. And then the second half was the Renaissance half, the Renaissance artists. And both of these stories link because of this mourning, but also because of art and art history, which I find very fascinating, and I'm very interested in these topics. So it was nice to read. It was unexpected. I did not expect to be reading so much in detail about art and art history, so I'm glad it focused on these topics. And I also liked how the Renaissance artist created the painting that George's mother was so fascinated by, and so was George when her mother had died. I thought that was a really nice link. Never read a book like this before. Ali Smith has a certain style, particularly here because she's, I don't know, I think there's no speech marks, there's weird grammar. It was really hard to get into at first, to be honest. And I think I was quite lucky with having George's story first, because when I got to the Renaissance part, I was kind of confused because the grammar had changed completely and the certain words and structure was a bit different. It kind of confused me. But I enjoyed both parts, which some people do not. I fell in love with this style of writing. Weirdly, I particularly enjoyed the role of art in our lives and the importance it has and how it can evoke certain feelings and how it can change lives actually. I think art is just in general really, really important, and Ali Smith shows that perfectly. I also enjoyed the links of life and death in both stories. I found that really, really fascinating. Like I said, reading it with George's story first was a lot better. I think I wouldn't have understood the book if I'd read it in the other way, so with the Renaissance artist first. Obviously the other half of the books are published that way, but I'm very glad that I just read it with the modern part. I thought it was a very, very good read, and I would recommend it to anyone. I know it's sort of weirdly done, I just thought it was lovely. But yeah, these are the 4 books that I've particularly enjoyed so far this year. Yeah, I hope you like this video. I'm Olivia. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.